Hey everyone, it's been a little over a year since Project Overkill has been in service, and I want to give you an update video about what we found, little quirks, issues, and any changes that have been made for the project so far. So you might notice a yellow extension cord here that's wired into the terminal block here, and I'm going to show you right out of the gate what that is powering right now. So that is a Pioneer 12,000 BTU mini split system that is running off of this yellow extension cord. This is a 10 gauge extension cord rated for the amperage and everything that system will draw. And my father-in-law purchased a 115 volt model rather than a 230 volt model specifically because he knew he wanted to power it off of this. So right now, as it stands, his house has been cooled by solar. He's supplemented with fan, but his central air conditioning system is completely offline. He like cut it off. So pretty impressive that a 2 bedroom, 2 bath house can be cooled off of the solar panels. And overall, I think that's pretty awesome. One of the things that we found is that the shunts in all of these BMSs need to be reset, and the problem with that is that, as you can see here, this one is reading out 60% even though it's at 46.1 volts, and I'll show you another one that is currently reading out 51%, and that's because we need to do basically a calibration on the shunts. So as you can see here, this one's reading out 51%. The battery voltages are very similar, but the readouts on the BMS are reading very different amounts as far as the percentages of battery capacity goes. So I'm going to go ahead and explain to you why that is now. Alright, so I'm going to do my best to explain this. It makes perfect sense in my head, but I don't always articulate it very well. So we know that a battery is kind of like a container that holds water. If you watched my battery voltage sag video, you saw how similar they are. So let's say we have a container over here, it holds 1 gallon of water, and it's half full, so there's a half gallon of water and a half gallon of open space. Now if we have the same height container, but it's a different shape, we can have 2/3 of a gallon of water and 1/3 of a gallon of open space, even though we're at the same water level for the two containers and they're the same height. So how does that translate over to our batteries? Well, this is kind of a view of what a lithium iron phosphate battery's discharge curve would look like. So we are empty at 2.5 volts, we are fully charged at 3.65, and we have very little capacity at the top and bottom, and most of our capacity is between 3.2 and 3.3 volts. So as you fill this container, most of that electricity, but most of the water is going to be contained within this area right here between 3.3 and 3.2 volts. So the more we fill this, just like a container, as the pressure rises when you fill it with water, with a battery, as you fill it with electrons, the voltage rises, which is electromotive force. So the issue that you run into with these shunts when they aren't calibrated is you can run your battery all the way down to 0 amp hours. Let's say this is a 1 amp hour battery. You can run it all the way down to 0 amp hours, but your shunt will still say there's 10% battery life left in this battery. So how do we correct this? Well, we recharge it, because once we get to 0, obviously our battery is going to stop discharging. Now when we start charging again over here, we're going to start with our shunt at 10%, and it's going to immediately start climbing as soon as we put any energy or electricity back into the battery. So this gap here of 10% is going to stay there. So as we fill this, when the shunt reaches 100%, which is actually going to be at 0.9 amp hours because of this offset, this 10% offset. The meter is going to read 100% even though we've only put 0.9 amp hours in, and really the battery's not full yet. It's only at 0.9 amp hours, but according to it, the battery is full. So what ends up happening is the meter stops at 100% because it can't go higher, but we continue putting power into this battery until it's full. And then once it's fully charged and it stops charging, your meter reads 100% and your battery is at 100%. So now when you start discharging, this meter will start counting down immediately. And the shunts operate based on amperage, so the amperage going in and going out. It's not based on voltage, and that's why Project Overkill has batteries at the same voltage, but they are reading out in different percentages. So it may not be perfect after one full charge-discharge cycle, but let's say you did this again. Whatever offset you have down here when you do a discharge, it'll be smaller, significantly smaller, and then you can do another full charge again, and by then you should have really good metering for this. And it's really important for lithium iron phosphate because these voltages don't give you a good representation of a percentage of battery. You can't just look at a voltage and say like, oh, it's at 3.2 volts. There must be 80% battery life. Like, it doesn't work that way with these. Because it's such a small range for so much of the capacity of this, the shunts really do come in handy for you to know, am I at 60% or 80%? Because the voltage just isn't going to give you that kind of information. I really hope that made sense. If it didn't, let me know, and I will try to explain it differently. But yeah. So normally these percentages would correct themselves after a couple of full charge and discharge cycles because of the way the shunt operates, like I just explained. But the problem with this setup is that we don't have a 16S battery, it's only a 14S. So this inverter cuts out for low voltage before the batteries are fully discharged. So the way that we're going to fix that, or correct the problem, is with this 30 amp buck converter that I purchased on Amazon. So you can see the input here is 36 or 48 volt, positive and negative, and the output's 12 volt. And what we're going to do with this is wire in a 12 volt inverter and basically just like run a fan or something like that for like 400 days to pull these batteries down enough to cycle the BMSs, because once they hit 0%, if there's still more battery life, it pulls the voltage down, but that 0% starts rising as soon as you start charging it, even if you pull it down to a lower state of charge. So up to this point, we have had no issues with the system. It has been running literally every single day, just about 24/7 since it has gone into service. So that's awesome. The other thing I wanted to mention was there is a cord here running on a surge protector that runs upstairs for odds and ends. It's also running a fridge. And there's also a cord here that runs stuff in the basement, which includes a upright freezer and like a MacBook and stuff like that, lamp, little odds and ends. So he's running all of that on top of that. So it's overall, it's been I'm actually really surprised that it's ran as well as it has so far. Probably not great being the guy that built it, but I mean, it's a lot going on, and I'm really surprised that there weren't any hiccups. So right now there is 316 watts coming in from the solar panels. It's about 5:34 in the afternoon. But if you look at the history of this, since this system has been up and running, we are consistently getting anywhere from 7 to, well, 8 to 9 kilowatt hours, sometimes more. But the lifetime total down here is 2,457 kilowatt hours in a year. So 2.4 megawatt hours in a year is quite a bit of power. If you have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, questions, throw them down in the comments section below and I will respond to them. I'm trying to be really responsive. I've been slacking on that, so picking up the slack on that. Alright, that's going to be it for this update video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Hey everyone. Well, it's been a little... Hey everyone, well, it's been a little over a year since Project Overkill has been in service, and so this summer, So Hope to see you all in the next one. See ya. Alright, that's going to be it for this video.